How are you, Fergus? Good.
Being here today. We really appreciate you coming as it is 3 days before Christmas to this event. It is a really important event in the story of the National Broadband Plan. Oh, I need to go. Okay, sorry. Can you hear me better now? Okay, I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming here today. It's a really important event in this milestone project that is the National Broadband Plan. We're not going to keep you for long. The purpose of today is to publish the revised strategy, publish the revised map, and most importantly, to launch the pre-qualification questionnaire and project information notice, which is the formal procurement for the process. I probably don't need to introduce everybody here today. I think at this stage, everybody knows everybody. Fergal Mulligan, our Programme Director, and obviously the Minister, and myself, Catherine Licken. Our running order for today, the event is being live web streamed. The purposes of that is for transparency as part of the procurement process. We will have a clarification event for potential bidders on the 19th of January where everybody can come together and we can go through Q&As on the process. The tender documentation will be up on eTenders later today. We're aiming for around 2 o'clock, but it will be at some stage later today. It'll be up on the OJEU probably in a couple of days. There's just a time lag from when we load it versus when it actually appears on the OJEU. Early in January, we will talk to you, we will produce a document about how we engage going forward. I think everybody in the room understands how important that is, that there are ground rules as to how we engage in order to protect the integrity of the process. And I suppose I just want to thank you all. We've had a very, very inclusive engagement with all of you here in the room, and it's just great to get to this day. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce the Minister first, and then Fergal is going to talk you through the key elements of the strategy. Minister White.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you all to the publication this morning of the National Broadband Plan Intervention Strategy. This is a defining moment for the telecommunications sector, for our economy and for our people. Today, my department is launching a major government procurement process for the delivery of high-speed broadband infrastructure. It is designed to be a lasting solution that complements existing commercial investment and benefits all of our citizens in whatever part of the country they live or work. Our ambition in rolling out this plan is to become a leader in business and domestic connectivity in Europe and beyond. Previous state interventions have struggled to keep pace with consumer and business demand. Government is now committing to definitively tackling Ireland's broadband challenge in productive cooperation with industry. The plan is designed to deliver a degree of confidence and reliability which was previously lacking for both domestic and business consumers, and which will keep pace by matching performance with increasing demand. Quite simply, this is the most ambitious investment in broadband yet by government. When I took office in this job in summer 2014, I had a clear mandate from government to deliver a lasting and quality solution to connectivity issues in Ireland. Working with this mandate, the NBP team was considerably strengthened, and I set quite demanding milestones for the delivery of the project. And I'm glad to say that each of these milestones has now been met. In November 2014, I launched the 2016 high-speed broadband map. In July of this year, 2015, I published the draft intervention strategy for public consultation. And today, I'm publishing the intervention strategy and launching the formal procurement for the project. Meeting these milestones has been challenging and has involved extensive consultation and analysis. We've completed 4 public consultations which have elicited over 100 responses from industry, stakeholders and the public. The department has had well over 100 consultation meetings, undertaken several site visits, presented to numerous local authorities, issued a monthly newsletter, met with DG Competition, DG Comp in Brussels on numerous occasions, and hosted a meeting of the European Commission involving the European Commission and stakeholders here in Dublin, which was attended by Commissioner Hogan and Commissioner Cretu. We've had the state aid pre-notification launched in July, following ongoing dialogue with DG Comp. The department's team of expert advisors has produced 9 expert reports which have informed and shaped the intervention strategy, and most of these reports, as you know, have been published. I recognise that substantial funding is required to proceed with this plan. In September, the government's capital plan was published. It included an allocation of €275 million for the first 5 years of the NBP network rollout. We expect further state funding will be made available over the 25-year lifetime of the contract, complemented by accelerated commercial investment. And commercial operators have made substantial progress to date by investing some €2.5 billion in network upgrades and enhanced services. Approximately 1.2 million premises in Ireland now have access to high-speed services. By the end of 2016, 70% of premises, or 1.6 million properties, will have the same access. And I would like to commend industry for its vision and ambition in delivering well beyond what was envisaged in 2012, when the Next Generation Broadband Task Force concluded its work. And without this level of investment, the burden on the taxpayer would be considerably higher and the challenge much greater. This intervention strategy focuses on ensuring that the remaining 30% of our country will also have high-quality, high-speed access in areas where it is uneconomic for the commercial sector to invest, but where families and businesses are entitled to the same level of services. Through this combined commercial investment and state intervention, 85% of addresses in Ireland will have access to high-speed services by 2018, and our ambition is to achieve 100% coverage by the end of 2020. In a short while, Fergal Mulligan, the Programme Director for the NBP, will talk you through the key elements of the intervention strategy. Much of the strategy will not be new to you. Where changes have been made, they reflect the July consultation and subsequent expert analysis. There are a few notable changes to the strategy. For example, the contract period is adjusted from 20 to 25 years. The country is divided into 2 rather than 3 lots for procurement. And the ownership model has been narrowed down to two options: commercial stimulus and full concession. I'd like to reflect briefly on the choice of ownership models. The commercial stimulus and full concession models both involve the private sector building and operating the network. However, in the full concession model, the asset reverts to the state at the end of the contract. And we are leaving these two options open to the market at this point. The benefits of these options are that they firstly attract significant private investment, with bidders only seeking a subsidy for the balance required to meet the upfront capital cost. Secondly, they ensure that only the government's subsidy rather than the full cost of the network build may be on the government's balance. Thirdly, they place construction and demand risk on the private sector. And fourthly, they allow flexibility within the £275 million initial funding envelope for years 1 to 6, with further funding necessary over the 25-year contract term. The full concession model has the added advantage that the asset reverts to the state after 25 years, which has considerable benefits in terms of the state realising a financial return, strong control of this key strategic asset, incentivising reinvestment in the asset, and ensuring a strong culture of open access. All of these features must, of course, be balanced against the cost of a network build and measures to govern a contract or contracts. The commercial operator in both models will be incentivised through key performance indicators in the contract. The Exchequer can also share in any savings against forecast capital expenditure and also share increases in network profits over and above those stated in the procurement process. I would like to draw your attention also to the 2020 high-speed broadband map and our engagement with industry on this important aspect of the intervention strategy. Before accepting any plans onto the map, the Department requires companies to demonstrate that they have financial, technical and deployment plans that can assure us that all of the areas planned will get access to high-speed services. Companies must also be willing to sign a formal commitment agreement with the Department. In October, we published a clear process for dealing with future changes to the map, whether pre, during or post-procurement. And following a public consultation on this process, we are publishing a document today which sets out the approach to managing changes that may be necessary to the high-speed broadband map. It deals with potential adjustments throughout procurement and during the rollout of the high-speed broadband network. Where operators can meet the criteria set out for any investments and sign a commitment agreement, these can be reflected in the procurement process. These assurances are important, not just to the Department, but to consumers across Ireland who have waited patiently for services for many years. They are required for good reasons. We have stated over and over again that the aim of this intervention is to do it once and do it right. We have given a firm commitment that every citizen will have access to high-speed broadband regardless of where they live or work. So where operators are accepted onto the map, it means that businesses, communities and citizens in these areas will rely on the delivery of high-speed broadband by commercial companies. The state intervention will not cover these areas. I have to be sure, therefore, that any commercial developments meet the technical standards we demand, can be rolled out in the time frame promised, and cover every home, school, business, farm and community centre in the area. To date, no company has satisfied all of the criteria and signed a commitment agreement. A total of 6 operators have submitted detailed plans which were assessed by the department, and these operators have worked, I want to say, assiduously, each and every one of them, with the department, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued professionalism and extensive cooperation and engagement with my department in this period. I'm not going to be drawn into commentary on any individual company. I will reiterate, however, that where operators can meet the criteria set out for any investments, these can be reflected in the procurement process. Equally, where commercial milestones are agreed and not subsequently met, the intervention area can increase to reflect such changes. I look forward to continued engagement and cooperation with industry, although this engagement obviously will be conducted under strict conditions given the need to protect the procurement process. Effective broadband connectivity will power progress and embed new technologies to bring huge benefits for social inclusion and economic growth at local and national level. The National Digital Strategy has demonstrated the possibilities that digital technology offers citizens, communities, schools, and small businesses. The National Broadband Plan is critical to realising these possibilities and potential. It will provide the infrastructure platform which will ensure that all our people have the same access to information, culture, ideas, choice, and all the other opportunities that quality broadband offers. This will include greater employment opportunities enabled by the right set of digital skills entering the workforce. Every aspect of this strategy has been carefully designed and developed with maximum consultation with industry and other stakeholders in order to deliver the highest level of broadband access in the best possible way. We've worked together to deliver a substantial combined investment in Ireland's telecommunications networks. And I'm confident that this intervention, together with your investments, will bring enhanced equity and opportunity, transform our country for the better, and help us realise our connected future. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at a really exciting horizon in which our national broadband network, operating as a public good, helps us to reap the benefits of a fully digital economy. Thank you very much, and I'd like to wish you all a very happy Christmas.
Thank you, Minister. And if I may say, in fairness to the Minister, he did come in, he did set us challenging milestones, and he very much championed this whole programme and got us to where we are today. So for that, thank you, including the funding, most importantly. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Fergal, and Fergal is going to take you through the strategy. So if you can bear with us for another probably 20 minutes, half an hour. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Minister, morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure I want to thank the Minister for the milestones he set, because we had to meet them. So but we've met them anyway, so at least we've got here anyway. So I'll spend the next 20 minutes going through the slides. Just to be clear, we're not going to have a Q&A session today, because we're going to have a session in Dublin Castle on the 19th of January, where we'll have a detailed Q&A session with people that are interested in bidding. As Catherine said, the relevant documents will be on the tenders today and OJ in the next few days. There's some time lag there that I'm not fully aware of. And people will be able to read the PIM notice, the project information memorandum, which is a very detailed document setting out in fuller detail these slides. And then there's the PQQ itself, where people put forward their ambition to be a bidder, and we will evaluate that over the course of March. So the closing date that we're proposing for the PQQ is the 29th of February, so people will have a couple of months in the early new year, and then we'll spend March, I suppose, evaluating it and get back to bidders on whether they're qualified to bid, and also on the ownership model that government will decide on in around March, we hope. So I'll go through these now. As I said, most of the things in the slides haven't changed from July, or there's subtle changes, which you'll see in the PIM notice, so I won't dwell on the things that haven't changed and that's familiar to people already, and I'll probably go through things that we have changed in more detail and explain why we've changed them. So we published the draft strategy in July. There was over 40 responses. couple of those responses would have involved maybe 30 or 40 stakeholders. So in aggregate, there was many more than 40 individual responses. It was a mixture of public body, industry, and consumers. And I suppose since we received those responses in September, over the course of October, November, and December, there's been a massive amount of deliberation in the department, across government departments, and at cabinet level, as the Minister will tell you, about all the decisions that we've actually taken that's given rise to this strategy today. So none of these decisions have been taken lightly. They are actual decisions, and that's where we're proceeding to procurement on that basis. So I suppose if the Minister had a shotgun today is the shotgun moment, and we are starting procurement officially today. But he doesn't have a shotgun, so I'm afraid. The NBP team, as the Minister said, there is a massive team in the department of professional people working on this project, because it is a very complex and technical programme. So, as we said in July, we've PwC on board, KPMG, Analysis Mason, and Mason Hayes Curran are providing the legal advice. KPMG are, from today onwards, the lead on the procurement process, and they're experts in the field of procurement and have run many infrastructure projects in conjunction with other agencies such as the NDFA. And Mason Hayes Curran similarly. So we've published all those reports in July as draft reports. We're going to publish them all again today. They should be on the website as soon as possible today. So you'll see all these expert reports. There was some commentary in July from respondents that we didn't publish enough on the cost-benefit analysis. We're publishing a lot of information again on that today as to how we've arrived at our benefits, so people can see why we think this is beneficial for the state. So while we say it's going to benefit this, that and the other, we've actually calculated the numbers, and you will see those numbers and how they were calculated today. It is without doubt a kind of no-brainer, as we call it, from a benefit to cost ratio, but the numbers actually prove that when you model it out. And that is currently within the bells of deeper as we speak being evaluated. They've spent a summer evaluating a previous iteration. They've now got the latest iteration. But again, we've utmost confidence in the actual benefit to cost ratio, as opposed to other projects that might be underway in the state. The objectives haven't changed. The Minister's already gone through the objectives, so I won't dwell on those. The simple objective is 100% broadband penetration, high-speed broadband nationally. The intervention area, the scope of the tender at this time hasn't changed, as the Minister has alluded to in his speech. And that is the makeup of that intervention area, as we've modelled it, and that comes from a lot of CSO data and other data that's publicly available. And that's the makeup of it. We will make that available to people that qualify to be bidders, because there's a lot of licensing issues around addresses and different things of what is a business and what isn't a business. So we'll make that available in March, April. But as you can see, there's a significant amount of businesses, there's a significant amount of industrial estates, business parks, primary schools, so an array of stakeholders that are literally, as we speak, chomping at the bit for high-speed broadband. While the milestones we've set are extremely challenging, we're actually going too slow for all the people listed on that page there today, and they want it yesterday. So we can't move fast enough for the people that want high-speed broadband. Summary of the strategy and the main points. Again, in terms of the minimum, and I stress the minimum wholesale products that need to be available to residential customers, and we will stipulate, or we'll ask bidders to propose much higher levels of service for business customers. But at a basic residential level, we expect the wholesale product to be available to retailers of the 30 megabit down, the 6 megabit up, with the other following characteristics that follow as well. So it's not an up-to service. It's a high quality, resilient, high-speed broadband service that will be available at the wholesale level, and that will be measured from the customer premises back to the nearest point of the internet that we can actually measure. And that's what bidders will be measured against. Again, business users will be catered for. We had a significant number of responses from business to the July consultation where they were a little bit perturbed that it was only 30 meg down and 6 meg up, but we do cater for business, and the contract will cater for business. Again, it's a future-proof network. We are not expecting that by 2040, 30 meg down and 6 meg up is sufficient, but what we're saying is that it's a minimum service at this time. The network requirements, though, will be future-proofed, which will mean that the bidders will be asked to put forward what their 25-year horizon is for an investment programme that ensures the network will meet future demand. And we will monitor that every 3 to 5 years, and our benchmark will be to the networks that are actually available in the non-intervention areas. Because again, we want a national network here, and we don't want to have another digital divide in 10 or 15 years' time. The extended availability, again, the ambition is 100%, and marks will be awarded to the bidders that come forward with 100%, and if that's not possible, whoever gets as close to 100% as possible. I suppose we've modelled every single house and every single business in the country. We know where they are. We know the distance from the nearest internet exchange or from the nearest network. We do know that there are remote premises that are very, very expensive to reach, but we will ask bidders to come forward with their views of what they believe to be too expensive. And we will, as part of the competitive dialogue process that we'll have next summer, we will have discussions with bidders around that, but the ultimate aim is to be as close to 100% as possible. It is a backhaul and access intervention. There is arguments for having a backhaul only intervention. We believe that it's absolutely necessary to address the network issues end to end. And that is, for the avoidance of doubt, includes connecting end users. So when people make an order for high-speed broadband over the next 6 to 10 years, they will get it, and they will get it within timeframes that are set out in the Analysis Mason technical report. The focus of the intervention from our end is a wholesale network. It's an open access wholesale network, as we've said before. It's a requirement under state aid guidelines, but it's a natural progression of any government intervention now. We do not get involved in the retail market. We make sure the wholesale market is properly functioning. And there will be post-contract reviews that will take place to ensure end users have access to the high-speed broadband that we're promising them today. And any retailers that are not providing the high-speed broadband that we've built will be dealt with through contracts and through interconnection agreements that they have with the wholesale network provider. The timeframes have slightly changed for connections, again taking into account responses to the consultations. We expect that during deployment there will be a process where the wholesale network and retailers in particular will have pre-orders, because it will be very, very transparent as to where this network is being built, when it's being built, and where it's being rolled out over the time frame to 2020. And we expect consumers, and a significant number of consumers, will be incentivized to connect to the network on day one. So for pre-deployment orders, we expect 100% of those to be connected within 2 weeks. And for existing premises post-deployment, there's 80% within 2 weeks, and so on and so forth. And there will be different timeframes for new build premises post-contract award. We will deal with new builds post-contract award separately because people don't know where those homes are yet, so it wouldn't be reasonable for us to expect them to give us a cost for connecting those homes at this stage. Bidders are more than welcome to propose more demanding timeframes, and marks may be awarded for any such proposals. Again, as I alluded to, for new build premises, depending on the construction costs on a case-by-case basis, connection charges for new build post-contract award may, similar to other utilities, be different to the standard connection charge that we would expect consumers to be availing of for existing premises. So for new build premises, we will engage with bidders on what they believe to be a reasonable access threshold over which the consumer should make a contribution. That's consistent with what we've had for the last number of years on the old copper connections. But again, it's a process whereby it will be published, and consumers that build new homes will be well aware of that process. So when they build a home, those people that are building homes put in place the network infrastructure that they think they may need if they want high-speed broadband. If they build their home and they don't do that, well, they may face a more significant charge post-build. Infrastructure sharing, the ambition of the state is to minimise state aid. Where possible, we will expect infrastructure to be shared. We will expect it to be shared where possible between bidders, and we would expect bidders to negotiate in good faith and act in good faith. And any disputes that arise may require arbitration, and that arbitration may be looked at through the eyes of ComReg or the relevant authority, depends on what the dispute is. If in the event we are running the procurement process and we are running the timelines up to 2016, if there is a lot of negotiations going on between bidders and those negotiations on terms and conditions and price are not happening in the timeframes that we would hope for and we would expect in order for bids to be put forward to us, we reserve the right to mandate what those terms and conditions and pricing should be, and that will probably involve consultation with the regulator, which may be ComReg or whoever it may be, and we will take that on a case-by-case basis. But again, the ambition is to get the procurement process run as smoothly as possible and to get a contract or contracts awarded. And infrastructure sharing, while complicated, shouldn't be an issue over 2016 to prevent us from awarding a contract. Deployment targets, again, while people might say they're ambitious, as I said, I've been around many county councils around the country. I've been to many leader group meetings, many LEO group meetings, and all the stakeholders that are in rural Ireland, and those targets are not fast enough. So ultimately, we have to strike a balance between what we can actually achieve versus what people want today and what businesses need tomorrow. So these are the targets that we are setting. They are targets. Again, bidders are more than welcome to come forward with more ambitious targets. Ultimately, the contract will decide what the targets are, and that's what people will sign up to when they sign a contract. We will reserve the right to prioritise areas, subject to any such prioritisation not giving right to more state aid. So if there is areas where there's significant black spot for jobs, or there's business parks, or there's a particular issue around connectivity that should get priority over another area, we will negotiate with the bidders to ensure that those areas are addressed as a priority. As the Minister said, we have not landed on the final ownership model yet. It's a very, very significant decision for the government to make. We've been tasked from the last government meetings to come back in the spring with a final proposal. That final proposal will be on model A or B, and the commercial stimulus model and the full concessionaire model are the two shortlisted options. Again, with the consultation in July, significant number of responses were very different as opposed on each different model. Obviously, from a public point of view and a consumer point of view, option number 2 was very prevalent in the responses about how the state maintaining some ownership of the asset, which is seen as a very strategic asset for the state over the next 40 years. And obviously, a lot of commercial companies that are planning to bid would see the gap-funded commercial stimulus model. So we've got a balance of views that we've taken on board. Fundamentally, we need to do what's best for the state and what's best for the long-term competition environment and consumer environment, and ensuring high-speed broadband is there and the state aid process reaps the benefits to the state over the long term. And if, as the Minister said, with a gap-funded model, there is a risk there that the state may pay a lot of money out in the next 6 to 8 years and not reap the benefits of that financially if those benefits were there to be reaped over the long term. So we need to model all that, we need to analyse that, and we'll revert to government in March with a further proposal on which ownership model we think. As part of the procurement process, we are going to ask bidders, or people interested in bidding, which option they are happy to bid for. And bidders are more than welcome to opt for both options and say, we're agnostic to which option, we're still happy to bid. But if you opt for one and we choose the other, you may not qualify to be a bidder. So that will be put forward in the documents today, and people will have a form to fill out, and that will be submitted in a sealed envelope that will be not open to the people involved in the process, and the names of people that opt for option A or B or both options will not be made available to the decision maker, which will be made in March. So it will be a non-discriminatory decision that will be fully transparent to us and all the industry and bidders as to how that decision is made. The minimum product set hasn't changed from what we would have published in July. It's consistent with the state aid guidelines. It's consistent with DG Comp have said to us in the meetings we've held with DG Comp over the last number of months. It's standard practice across Europe, and I know there's a lot of discussions going on at the European level about these products and services, but that's what will be mandated on day one. The documents that we published today are a bit more detailed about what we require and when we will require it for different bidders. Wholesale pricing principles, obviously that's the meat of the sandwich for a lot of bidders. Where possible, we will require wholesale price to be set at maximum prices against the most comparable wholesale regulated products outside the intervention area. Obviously, the most comparable wholesale regulated products are those of open air at the moment for Bitstream and VUA. And where a direct comparison is not possible, adjustments may be required, or we can take into account the incremental cost difference between one product and another. But fundamentally, consumers and retailers will be faced with a similar product set and a similar pricing set as that are available in the non-intervention areas. Consistency with regulation is very, very important, and on that front, the price reviews and product reviews will be consistent with regulation as they currently stand today, that there will be periodic reviews to make sure that whatever we set in 2016 holds in 2020, because we know in a very fast changing environment on a technology front and on a pricing front and with competition that it's very important to look at these things every 3 to 5 years to make sure they still stand the test of time. Connection charges for high-cost new build homes, as I said, will be agreed during the procurement process with bidders, but will be locked into the contract when we arrive at a contract process. Non-discrimination measures, again, nothing too dissimilar to what we published in July. Accounting separation, equivalence of inputs, the standard stuff. We will, however, at the outset, expect a separate legal entity, which can be part of a group, but we expect an MBP co, which will have a neutral branding. We would expect the quality of pricing. We'll expect the management of the network that's going to build in the intervention area to be separate from any related businesses. This is a fully focused wholesale network for the intervention area. And the level of service credits applicable in case of non-discrimination will reflect that. Where relevant, distinct and separate marketing, as I said, will be required. And incentive schemes, senior management which ultimately will be the incentives are to get this network built as soon as possible and to get as much competition on that network and get as much choice and quality out to consumers as possible. We are addressing the issues that have been raised in July's consultation in terms of small, medium-sized companies insofar as we can. NBA and NCO will be required to demonstrate that all RSPs, regardless of size, can interact seamlessly with the wholesale systems of the NBP Co. And the NBP Co will be required to provide a list of retailers on its wholesale website. And that for those retailers that have been granted access. Again, not every retailer will be granted access. Retailers will also have a burden of proof that they will actually deliver the high-speed broadband network to the end user. Access to the network system should facilitate small and efficient companies with little incremental costs. So we do not want an environment where only large retailers can interact with this wholesale network. We need a fair crack at the whip for all small retailers, some of which are critically important to business and retail, other end users for innovation and different things that they can bring to the table at a local level. The procurement strategy, as the Minister said, it's a single tender process. It will be a competitive dialogue. I'll go through in the last slide the process. We'll have the PQQ, and then with bidders that qualify through that process, we'll have an invitation to dialogue. And that dialogue will take place over next summer. It'll be a very detailed and complicated process, I'm sure. And it will be for 2 lots. And for those 2 lots, they're spread out over 2 northern lots and a southern lot, and bidders can bid for a combined lot. So you'll see the PIM notice in the PQQ today, which, thanks to our lawyers, will look very complicated, but you'll eventually get the gist of it. But we've had to do that because, primarily because there are effectively 3 lots, and we've 2 potential ownership models. So the documents look a bit more complicated because of that process, and hopefully when we make a decision on the ownership, it'll be a little less complicated. How did we arrive at those 2 lots? Well, primarily they're aligned with the ERDF borders. We have, as you know, 75 million allocated from ERDF, and there will be a significant amount of audit and oversight from the ERDF on that 75 million, and it's allocated between BMW and South East Region. And we are working with the BMW and South East Region on that money, and both the heads of those 2 organisations have been on our steering group. And while there may be issues around the architecture of different networks, and there may be flexibility to tweak the borders slightly during procurement, but fundamentally those are the 2 lots. And they're pretty homogeneous in terms of business and residential. They're a slight difference from one to the other. And where possible, and Comreg are fully aware of these lots, and I believe Comreg's publishing a document today in relation to spectrum, which may or may not align with these lots. The funding of the intervention area, again, for obvious reasons, we can't disclose how much funding is available from the government. What I can tell you is that the government is fully committed to the strategy, which means they're fully aware of the likely cost of it because we have modelled that. And we've modelled it quite prudently. And the government, I suppose, by virtue of signing off on the strategy, are happy with what we believe is the likely cost to the state of this intervention. And I think that's all we have to say, that the government and the Minister has said that is fully committed to this programme. While an initial stimulus package has been put forward at 275 million, this is a 25-year contract. A significant amount of capital will be withheld during the contract to make sure that when the network deployment plan is being rolled out, it is actually being done to the standards that are required to the contract. And if it's not, monies will be withheld. This also strikes a balance of affordability to the state, the sustainability, and allows for effective governance through the contract process. There will be very, very significant governance aligned with the contract. That's normal practice with all these sort of large-scale infrastructure projects. The department will, over the next 12 months, be establishing a governance team, and that will be required for, as I said, with ERDF funding. There's a significant amount of oversight there. The contract itself will be a very, very significant document which will have a lot of terms and conditions and a lot of monitoring quarter on quarter from the rollout to the actual operation. And that will be something that we'll disclose in more detail in the tender documents. I suppose last but certainly not least, in terms of the strategy, demand stimulation, and as I said in July, it sometimes is overlooked. Demand is critically important in the initial years of this network to bring as many consumers onto this network as possible. We will obviously have the first movers and early adopters and all that sort of thing, but it's critically important that in conjunction with the department, other government agencies, local level leaders, LEOs, and the operators themselves and the wholesale network itself, that the transparency of the deployment plan and the availability of the network and the pricing of the network and all that sort of stuff is out there as soon as possible, and we get as many people on the network. And we will look for bidders to come forward with initiatives at a local level that will stimulate that demand. The more people on this network, the more benefit there is to the operators who are going to win the bids, and the less subsidy that we should have to put out there into the market. And lastly, the last slide is literally the process, which a lot of people, I suppose, that have been through procurement process will be fully aware of. It will be a very complicated process. We will have a very strong team in the department to deal with the complications in that process over the next 12 months. The PQQ, which has been published today, the PIM notice that's been published today, are very detailed. They are supported by the 9 reports that the Minister alluded to. So there's a hell of a lot of reading over the Christmas. Sorry about that. And there will be then an invitation to participate in dialogue in Q1 or start of Q2 next year for those bidders that are successful in getting through the process. What we will ask bidders then to do is submit detailed solutions that align with the strategy here that we've set out. And then eventually we'll ask for submit a final tender. And that final tender will be the eventual contract with the winning bidder or bidders. And of course, we can't get through a state aid process until we are absolutely locked down on the contract that we plan to award. So even if we wanted to make a final notification tomorrow to the European Commission, we can't, because they will ask us, is there anything open to change here? And there's always things open to change. We can't say for definite that nothing will change, and therefore the prudent thing to do is to keep dialoguing with the European Commission and DG Comp and all the other relevant stakeholders, DG Connect and the regulator and the competition authority, ensure we've all boxes ticked and all the critical areas are sorted out through the procurement process, through the dialogue. And if there is anything that changes through the competitive dialogue, we will probably have to go back to DG Comp and possibly Comreg and others, and we will have to make sure that any changes we make to the strategy are aligned with the state aid guidelines and any other things that we have to comply with. And we will make a final submission to the European Commission once we're absolutely sure that what we're proposing here is going to be in the final contract, and then they will come back and approve the project. We will be fully confident, though, when we make that final submission to the European Commission, that it will be approved. But any contract negotiations that happen over the next 12 months will be and will have to be subject to that final letter we get from the European Commission. And a contract won't be awarded till that letter is received, because that would not be a very good thing to do for bidders or for ourselves. So without further ado, as the Minister said, we will have to, and we will do that over the course of a number of weeks, have a process of engagement with bidders and with other operators in the industry, because we are in a very complicated legal process here of procurement, and we can't be seen to engage or deal with any one operator in a discriminatory fashion, or perceived to be, and perception is everything when you get to procurement. So we will have to prescribe in writing and in conjunction with our lawyers what process of engagement is appropriate going forward for bidders and non-bidders. And we will hopefully have something in writing in January where we can be clear internally and externally as to that process of engagement. So that is it in a nutshell, and that's the culmination of an absolute massive amount of work in the department. I suppose on behalf of maybe Catherine, I'd like to thank the team of advisors and the team in the department, which is a substantial number of people, and they have worked long and hard over the last number of months. There's been a lot of long hours, and I know over the last weekend in particular, I don't think many people got much sleep because of the amount of work that was required on the PIM and PQQ. And I would like to thank them all for that. And as you'll see in the documents today, and you'll see in all the expert reports, no stone has been left unturned, and we hope that it's understandable, we hope it's user-friendly, and we will have a process of engagement then on the 19th of January where people can ask further questions. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Can I, just before Catherine wraps up, just echo what Fergal has said in relation to the team in the department. It's been my great honour to work with them over the last year and a half. I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 months' time or 3 months' time, but somebody will be here to carry on this work, whether it's me or somebody else. But it has been a really great honour. I mean, for somebody who wouldn't know his backhaul from his megabit before he came along, I've learned a huge amount from these people, admired their professionalism, their sense of excellence in achieving just really, really important milestone along the way of this great project. So, as Fergal said, there are quite a few people. Sometimes people say too numerous to mention, but they're not actually that numerous. which I think is a point in itself. It's quite a tight, relatively small team of people doing a terrific job. Many of them are in this room. I'm not going to single them all out. They have been working so hard. Catherine, under Catherine's leadership, I want to thank her, showing immense leadership with all of the other things that she has responsibility for as Assistant Secretary in the department. She's really driven this project. And if you wouldn't mind, I would like those particularly to recognise Fergal's work, Fergal Mulligan's work, especially in the last few weeks, taking us to this important milestone in the project, and also at a time when Fergal himself was dealing with a sad loss of his father just in recent weeks. So, Fergal, thank you for your professionalism, for your input, for your good humour, for your steadfastness, and for everything that you're doing for this project. So, once again, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Minister, and it wouldn't be the event in the week it's in without two more thank yous. One to the Minister himself for the very, very strong leadership he has shown with this project since he came into office. I can't underestimate that, I must say, or overestimate it. Apologies. Whatever. But anyway, we got here. He set us the challenging milestones. We got here. He got the funding, and hopefully we will deliver. I would say on behalf of the team and everybody here, I mean, I think there is a genuine passion to do this right and to actually really deliver for the citizens of Ireland. And that is really refreshing as a public servant to be part of a team that is so passionate about doing the right thing. And the one other thank you I would like to say is to everybody here in this room, particularly industry. You have given your time, your effort, your commitment, ad infinitum to this project. Day and night, there is nobody in this room that hasn't worked assiduously and at great length to deliver our combined commercial investment and the state intervention, and working very positively and very cooperatively for the department. With the department, we don't always agree, but I think we do all share that vision to deliver for the people of Ireland and deliver conclusively for the people of Ireland. And for that, I really want to thank industry and hope that this productive relationship we have will continue. Obviously, we'll have different ground rules now that we're getting into procurement, but I just wanted to say that and to say happy Christmas to everybody and enjoy the turkey. Thank you.